Buen día, bom dia para todo el mundo. Qué alegría, tanta gente conocida, tanta gente conocida. Now we will switch into English as our speaker today is an English-speaking person, our dear friend, known by everyone, Assaf Luxembourg. Wow, thank you so much for attending so early. Everyone is online waiting for our second seminar in Innovation Talks. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I see Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Chile. Wow, our community is very, very, very active. Also the people in YouTube, because they don't want to be out. Remember, if there's someone who can't enter to the Zoom because we get full, it will be the same thing through YouTube, as you can ask in the YouTube chat. I will be moderating the questions from Zoom. Ryan will be doing the same from YouTube, so it will be great. Anyway, get ready, fasten your seatbelts, because we're about to start a great talk in what we call Innovation Talks. Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Boker Tov, Assaf. Good morning, Assaf. This is Damian. Assaf, are you copying?
All stations, this is control. Do you read? Spearhead, do you copy?
Clear and loud. So,
loud and clear.
So let me introduce. Let me give the welcome to everyone, every single innovation experience alumni, our network, our friends, I see people we work with from universities, from our different groups. thank you all for attending. Thank you for coming. For those who didn't attend the first talk, let me give you again the welcome. We are all now closed. This is our quarantine. We are through these difficult times, but our mission stays as strong as always. So we need to keep connecting you guys with Israel, with its powerful tools, its mindset, entrepreneurial skills, and all the state of the art happening in terms of technology, innovation, startups, and everything. So who's the greatest guy when we think about entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial skills and energy for these difficult times? I really can't think of anyone but Assaf. So let me introduce you to, first of all, a great person, a great friend of mine. We've been working together for a long time. He's been part of this project from minute zero, even -1. So I'm very, very glad, very honored to have him today to give our lecture and to be part of our community, of our friends and family who now we are pushing for this new era and trying to connect the world with Israel. As we can't bring you to Israel right now, we will bring Israel to you. So don't worry, stay tuned, and let me pass you the microphone. Sorry for my English, it's very long time since the last time I give lessons in English. Portugués estoy más acostumbrado, español ya es una cosa que funciona, but in English, it's new again for me. So Assaf, let me give you the microphone and let's start, Tachles, as you said, with our current lecture. So Assaf, welcome and thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All stations, this is Control. Welcome. We are starting now. This is the Resistance broadcasting from Quarantine, Israel. I am very happy to have you here. Damian, your spearhead here, so if I call you for anything, know that this is you. Ryan, operator, do you read?
I read perfectly.
Roger.
Welcome to you.
Great. I'm going to go straight ahead. So one small thing, operator. We have the chat here. A lot of people I see some people talking in the chat. It could get busier. It would really help if you don't want to burst in and talk. This is for all of you. Feel free to write in the chat because Ryan over here is going to look at your messages and maybe pop up a question or a note or a comment or anything. So feel free to use the chat. For me, it's going to be a little bit hard to look at it while I'm talking because I want to be with you. So my name is Assaf Luxembourg. I am very happy that you gave the time for this webinar. And the aim here is not for me to teach, is not for me to talk. I'm going to maybe talk for 5-10 minutes, not more than that. And then we're going to go straight to questions and answer, Q&A. So AMA, ask me anything. We can talk about career paths. We can talk about jobs. We can talk about how to work out the current situation. We can talk about storytelling for current entrepreneurs, customer relationships, sales, I don't know, rethinking the business, anything you want to talk about. The more pragmatic it is and the more you feel comfortable sharing as much as you can, it will help me bring more value to you. So this webinar is called Don't Miss Your Corona Crisis Opportunity. And we have 100 people in this webinar. So good job, guys.
And there are much more. There are much more in YouTube. So
yeah, and we have YouTube. So thank you, YouTube, for watching. And of course, this is brought to you by Innovation Experience Israel, who I don't need to introduce here, I believe, to anyone. So some of you here are alumni, which we met in Israel. So it's great to see some familiar faces. Some of you probably, this is your first interaction maybe with Innovation Experience Israel. So you need to leave everything you're doing right now and go check out their website and see how they can help you. I mean, not right now, after this webinar. So thank you, Innovation Experience Israel, for having me. So for those of you who I've never met before, pleased to meet. Enough with the introduction. Let's get to the tachlis. Many of you know me and met me in Israel as the guy that gave the Startup Nation exposure talk on the first day. And I was talking about business culture and what should you pay attention for in the store, and yada, 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 which is great, but it's not the topic for today. I mean, we could talk about it, but when we thought about what to do with this webinar, we thought about making it more practical for the time being for Corona. So I'm going to share my screen for just a second here to show you what the hell's going on. Yes, to show you this post, which you can see here on LinkedIn, or if you Google it, you can find it on the Times of Israel where it was published. But basically, this post is called "Don't Miss Your Corona Crisis Opportunity." And what I want to do is put this post in the center of the table, and then go just to Q&A. And this post will help us navigate. So as we go through this, I'm going to stop this for a second. As we go through just the quick 5 to 6 points in this post, I'm going to put it on the center, ask questions, and it will help me go to a certain place and come back to the middle, another question and come back to the middle, another question, another question. So instead of a lecture, me going like this with the chapters, we're going to do the sun model. So take me wherever you want for your own personal purposes. So many of you know me as the Startup Nation speaker from the first day. The context for this webinar is actually a big journey that I had in the past 3 years. So I'm not gonna waste time introducing myself. You can check it out online. But 3 years ago, I started to understand that when people talk about entrepreneurship, they don't always talk about startups. And I started paying attention to a certain change in the way young professionals, mainly people who are fresh out of university, meaning 21 to 30, those ages, the way they see the word entrepreneurship. And my generation is the generation that tried to start their own startup. Some succeeded, some did not, but that was the dream. Get a t-shirt with a logo of your company and an office at WeWork and develop an app or a platform. And I started seeing that young people see the word entrepreneurship a little bit different. They mainly think about their career path and how to secure a good career and a stable career in today's world of work. They don't necessarily want to start an innovative company that has a technology product. So I started paying attention to that. And in the past 3 years, and that's the side many of you do not know me for, except for Operator and Spearhead, I have been very active in taking lessons from the world of startups and entrepreneurship and bringing them to the world of career. How can I think like an entrepreneur, even if I am not an entrepreneur? If I'm a freelancer, or I have a side job alongside working in the bank, or even if I only work in the bank, how can I think like an entrepreneur, even if I am an employee? It's been a big thing for me. There's a lot of content online about this. And once Corona came, this became even more important than ever. So that is the context for the post that I wrote a few weeks ago, which is called "Don't Miss Your Corona Crisis Opportunity." And it directs to a lot of other things that I talk about. So again, I don't want to go through the content. It's all online. Ask questions, I'll answer and come back. I just want to go through some of the points. And of course, you can read it later. I'm not going to read the whole thing, of course. I want to start from the end. So I'm going to go down to the end, which is this. Because, the timing is very interesting. It's as if the stars have aligned, but in a way that is not necessarily good, but in an interesting way. So as you know, the holiday season is coming, whether you celebrate Passover, if you're Jewish, or Easter, if you're Christian, or Ramadan, if you're Muslim, but, or whatever, a lot of people are going into holiday season. So for me, it's very interesting to think about Passover for a minute, because Passover is all about the Exodus, the story of Moses and the Israelites leaving Egypt from slavery and going to the desert for 40 years until they got to the Promised Land. And that's something I actually wrote about, which you can find the post, the link in there. But I think it's very interesting. In a way, I think what Corona is doing to us, Corona is playing Pharaoh. If you remember Pharaoh, king of Egypt, he said to the Israelites, no, I don't want you to leave. You're staying as slaves. And Moses said, let my people go, and the whole story. I think what's happening today is that Corona basically, what it does is, it's as if Pharaoh is throwing us into the desert, even if we wanted to stay in Egypt. You don't need to be a hero and say, I want to start my own business. I want to start my side consulting firm or whatever. Probably a lot of you are going to have to do it if you haven't started already, because of what Corona is going to do for the world of work. What Corona is doing historically, I believe, is taking the inevitable and bringing it from the future to the present. So things will happen faster because of the economic crisis that Corona will generate and already generates. And that's why I wrote this post. Right now, I don't need to tell you, it's not big fun out there in any place. Businesses are down, people got laid off, or they sit at home, don't know if their jobs will exist. And it's not going to end tomorrow morning. And I think this is exactly the time to use in order to correct the course for whatever it is you want. Whether you're a startup or a consulting firm, or you're an employee in the bank, or you're a student about to graduate next year. So going back to the screen here, I wrote this in the context of the holidays. I believe that Corona is going to send us, many of us, to our personal career exodus story. So in a way, it's inevitable. We can blame Corona, but it would have happened anyhow. Slower, later, but it would have happened. But it happened with the Corona crisis, and it happened all at once. So again, I want to go over 5 points and then drop this to you for questions. And I see people already write in the chats, so operator, I hope you're looking at it. Number one, what I mean by breathe is, understand that things are not going to be the way they are forever. Meaning, in 2 years, we will talk about Corona. In 10 years, we will not even remember Corona. In 40 years, we will really not remember Corona, but that will be because of our age. Never mind. What I mean is, it's not going to be like that. And people have a tendency to think linear. Let's take the current situation, and if I look 6 months from now, let's take the current situation, multiply by 6, and see what's happening. But history is not linear. History goes by curves. Meaning, once the quarantine will be over, once the virus crisis will be over, we will start going back to work. But we will discover that the world of work really changed. And if you understand that nothing good is going to happen in the short term, there is no magical job that you're going to find tomorrow which will save you from the Corona crisis. It affects everyone. The minute you understand that there are no shortcuts other than 40 years in the desert to the promised land, you can start thinking about the promised land. The minute you understand that you have 40 years to go until you get to the promised land, you can start thinking like a marathon and not look for quick fixes, running from one oasis to another in the desert, but going in circles. So once you take a breath and you understand that your job 6 months from now is not necessarily your career 6 years from now, you can start thinking about your career 6 years from now. Because right now, everyone is sitting at home. So you might as well think about the future and not 6 months from now. You should think about 6 months from now, but now is a magical time to also think about 6 years from now before you go back into the rat race. So that's number one. Number two is super important. Don't make long-term strategic decisions based on short-term circumstances. Meaning, Corona reality may force you to do something for the next year or two because of financial reasons. Don't let that affect your long-term strategic goals for your career for 10 years from now. So again, I talk about it, you can read it later on. Start investing in what you want to happen the day after Corona. And that's what I want to spend time talking about using your questions. Meaning, now is the time to start building relationships with the right people you want as customers, with the right people you want as investors, with the right people you want as your boss. Because right now, everyone is sitting at home. So now is the time to do it the right way. So while everyone is looking for a job because they got fired, you can use the fact that people actually reply on LinkedIn and to emails or Facebook or whatever, or Instagram DMs or whatever. Use it to build a relationship, not ask for help. So I talk about it over there. We can get more into that. Number 5, understand where you are unique and valuable. So I'll get to that a little bit later. I'll just say right now, the whole philosophy that I developed for the new world of work is that we need to think of ourselves as business units. I may go back to that in a few minutes. But if you run your own career as if it's a business, even if you have a startup, you still run your own career as the founder, as if your career is another business. You need to think not just about what you want for the long term, but also what does the market need from you right now? Where are you unique and valuable? And combine the two. Where am I needed with where do I want to be? And find that shared zone in the middle. I'll go back to that a little bit later. Now's the time to build relationships the right way. Business people call it networking, business development, marketing, and sales. Build a reputation, build your brand. But then again, a lot of business development experts, they advise their clients on how to do it, but they don't know how to do it for themselves. So do it for you, because you are your own business. And there's another point that I want to talk about for employees. Even if you go back to your job in the bank and you're not going to get fired, and you're going to go back to the bank the day after, the bank will not be the same. So I have more to say also to people who work in a corporate. They're going to go back to their corporate. Their job is not at risk. They just sit at home and wait. Still, the main philosophy that I'm going to push through this webinar is that no matter what your situation is, you have to think like a business unit. And I may come back to that in a few minutes. But right now, I see some people wrote stuff on the chat. So I want to open this to questions and do this something as we said. I know I threw a lot of stuff on the table, but let's start taking questions. Operator, this is control. Do you read? Ryan, this is control. Do you read?
This is me. I'm doing the
Great.
questions. So let's start. Let's go directly into the questions. Question number 1 for Assaf. Okay. Okay. What do you think?
For people to talk, or you're reading from the chat? Okay.
What do you think are the main obstacles people face when trying not to miss the Corona opportunity?
So a few things. And again, every country, for whoever asked this, thank you for the question. By the way, if you want to ask a question, just burst into the video. Feel free to send your questions. You don't have to write it in the chat. So we want to do it the Israeli way. So, but whoever asked the question, thank you. Obviously, every country is a little bit different. But here's what I see speaking to a lot of people all over the world in the past few weeks. A lot of people were sent home on what we call, at least here in Israel, unpaid leave. Meaning you didn't get fired, but you're going to go home and wait for the quarantine to be over. You're not getting paid to sit at home. And who knows what will happen when, the situation will be over. So a lot of people sit at home and they wait to go back as if May 2020 will be simply like going back to February. Like we're going to continue from where we stopped. And that's, I believe, a huge mistake. So a lot of people sit and wait. That is a big, I believe this is taking a huge risk, sitting and waiting. Because business people can't sit and wait, ever, never. They can never do that. And as career-minded people, we need to think like business people. We run our own career like a business. That's my whole philosophy, which again, you can check online. So what are the big things to not miss the opportunity? First of all, understand that you're not going to go back. There is no such thing as the virus is over, let's go back to work and continue from February, where we stopped. It's not going to be like that in the majority of places. And the main thing you need to do, thinking like a business unit, is to get into the veins and the state of mind of your customer. If you run a business, you need to know your customers in and out. I need to understand Damian and Ryan and Innovation Experience Israel because they're a customer of mine. They're not even a direct customer. But if I don't understand their reality, I'm less good of a service provider to them. Same as for anyone who's an entrepreneur and has early customers, same as to every consultant, but it's also true to every employee. If you work in Ernst & Young on the 15th floor, the boss, which is in charge of you, is your customer. And you need to understand what your customer is facing. So the big thing for your question is not to think like an employee, meaning I'm sitting at home, I'm waiting for my job back, and then they're going to tell me what's happening, and I'm going to accept it or not accept it and react. That's passive. That's not entrepreneurial. What you need to do is empathize and understand what your customers are going through. And this is a very important message. I'm going to use your question to say something I didn't say. I think a lot of people that are sitting at home and waiting to get their jobs back are going to be very disappointed. Because once the quarantine will be over, they're going to get the letter. And the thing is, if you think like a business unit, you shouldn't be surprised. Your boss, which sent you home, will go back to the office the day after the quarantine. He or she will have to start with bringing the customers back. Meaning, if I work for you and you run the business and you sent me home because of Corona, the day after Corona, you don't call me yet. You go to the customers of the business and try to get money in. Sell from the beginning. Bring customers back. Once you start closing sales, you start feeding the pipeline, feeding the machine. Now you need employees. You're going to call me to come back to the office. So if we go back to, normal mode, optimistically say, I don't know, in May, many employers don't need the employees in May. They will need to go into one business cycle of sales and jump-starting the businesses in order to rehire maybe in September. And I believe a lot of people are expecting to get their jobs back in May, and they could get their jobs back, but it's going to take more time. Sitting at home waiting for your job to go back to you the day after is a mistake. It would be the same like your boss sitting at home waiting for the customers to come back to the store the day after Corona. That's not how business works like. You need to go and bring them. So that's what your boss is going to do. You need to understand that. The minute you understand that, you can communicate with your boss now to make sure that you are unique and valuable, like that point in the post. So you will be one of the first people that are getting called right back and not necessarily wait for September. So to conclude, that I used your question in order to drop more things. The main thing to avoid in order not to miss the current opportunity is, number one, not to think like an employee, and it takes time to get out of that mindset. Think as if you are a consultant and your employer is the customer. What do you need to do in order for your customer to buy more of you the minute Corona is over? Because if your job was to run the CRM, nobody cares about order in the CRM the day after Corona. They care about sales. But if you can help write the operational plan for how are we going to do it the day after Corona, and you can help write it now, then you are invaluable the day after. You will be the first one to be called in. I hope this answers your question.
Assaf, now there's another question, but it says like this: like you're focusing now principally in your article mainly on key points for employees. Which of the key points would apply to entrepreneurs and people running their own businesses? Even if it's a startup, a small company, or even bigger, according to your point your point of view.
Okay, so for those of you who know me more than the others, so I also serve as a consultant to companies. So I see that very closely now. And obviously, the post was written mainly for employees, because entrepreneurs and consultants and freelancers And business people, they have to think like businesses. Employees can sell themselves the idea that they can think like an employee. So they can live in the matrix for a while. So yes, the post is mainly for them. So general advice for founders of startups. Well, here's the thing. If you are able to, it depends. I'd be happy for more details to give you a better answer. But generally, if you live off of sales, then it's one reality. If you live off of fundraising, that's a different reality. Both of those realities are changing because of Corona, but in different ways. So I don't know, what's your situation, and I don't want to just talk in the air. So feel free to drop more details, and I'll tell you, I'll be happy to share some advice.
Generally, Latin American region in general, maybe the question was just the other way, but most of businessmen and entrepreneurs in Latam, they depend mainly on sales rather than on funding. So let's go there.
Which in a way it's a disadvantage that is going to be turned into an advantage. What do I mean by that? I don't know which country you're from, but guys, I have a lot of friends. You're not the only ones in Latin America. I know what the situation is. And you're not the only country that entered Corona, not with the greatest economic situation. So in a way, you got lucky because Corona is like reshuffling all the cards. So if you were a startup that actually was able to live and scrap and live off of sales in Latin America before Corona, you're lucky because you already did it. If you're a startup that raised a little bit of money from angels, nobody's going to give you money right now. I'm not saying all the investors are going to run away from high tech, but it's not going to be like before Corona. So in a way, if we're talking about startups that live off of sales, then your situation is better. What you need to do is empathize to your customers, understand where are they right now, understand that maybe the product or the technology you develop is not necessarily what they need right now, but maybe there are other things you can help them with, which they do need. And you don't do it in order to scrap some money, you do it in order to become unique and valuable to them, so that the day after Corona, they will want to buy more of your services. And by the way, another quick note, when people say startups, sometimes they talk about an e-commerce business, or I'm opening a store, a physical store, it's a startup. So to me, when you say startups, I'm thinking about companies that develop a technology. Probably they fundraise money because they have nothing to sell, and only after a while they start with sales. So I'm talking about technology startups, but I know that a lot of you, when you say startups, you mean just general business. So again, give me more details with the questions. I'll give you more practical advice, but I want to open this to more questions.
Okay, there's one question here. How do you build the networking when nobody knows anything about the future and what's going on with their businesses?
Great question. I'm going to start with the employee example and then get to the, entrepreneur, businessman or women, or, a freelancer example. You know what? Let's do it the other way around. Is there anyone here who is a lawyer? Please burst in and say, hi, I'm a lawyer, if you're a lawyer. No lawyers. Anybody here is an accountant? No one. Anybody here is a freelance consultant?
Yeah, we have.
Milner, thank you for raising your hand. Can you burst in and say hi, me? Milner, would you mind saying hi? I'm a consultant. Can't hear you. But okay, who else? Because maybe you're raising your hand. There are 93 people here. Maybe you're raising your hand and I don't see you. Can you please burst in, unmute yourself and say hi, me? It's important for me to know if we have more than 2, 3 freelancers here, consultants. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we have 3 or more. Great. So you guys, tell me if I'm wrong. I run a business. So if I want to get customers, here's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to understand who can I get as a customer. I'm going to have to go and talk to them. I'm going to try and get their attention so they will talk back to me. And then I need to start a sales process. Now I can tell them, I could tell them, hi, buy this from me in $9.99. Maybe it will work. More likely, I'm going to ask them to tell me a little bit about what they do, discover a little bit about their situation, maybe give a free advice or two, build a relationship, and then at the end of the day, understand where can I add value that will be appreciated by them and that is worth money to them. It's called sales process. And this is straightforward, simple for any business. Correct me if I'm wrong, especially if you're a consultant or a freelance lawyer or a freelance accountant. I hope it's understood for the rest of you, because maybe some of the people here are students, and maybe it's worth understanding this a little bit more. Let's take a lawyer. If you are a lawyer and you left the law firm and you started your own law firm, you're a freelance lawyer now, you could send an email to everyone you know. Hi, I became a freelance lawyer. Here's a PDF with all my experience, my portfolio. If you need a lawyer or you know someone who needs a lawyer, send them my way. What will you do with such an email? Delete, because it's a commercial. A better way for that lawyer would be, who do I want to get as customers? Who can I get as customers? Let's make a list of those people. Let's follow them online. Let's go and communicate with them, see who works in those companies on LinkedIn, and start doing business development. So that lawyer became a businessman. This is very straightforward. It's the same for employees. If you're sitting at home right now and you don't know if you got fired or not, my advice for you would be to think of yourself like a business unit. My entire philosophy, which is online. Make a list, open Excel. This is very tough list, open Excel. Column A, let's call it name of company. And I recommend you to make a list of the 10 companies that you want to work for. I don't know if they're hiring right now, it doesn't matter. These are the companies you want to work for. Because of Corona, before Corona, after Corona, in the long term, you want to build your career over there. Name of company, name of company, name of company, name of company. Column B is called my why, meaning, why do I want to work there? And the reason better be emotional, meaning, if everybody pays the same salary, if everybody wants to hire me, if all the jobs has the same security, if all the jobs have the same reputation, being a kindergartner or cleaning the street or being a VP in the bank is the same reputation. If everything is the same, what do I really want to do? Who do I really want to work with? Why do I want to work for them? Because I love the product, because I love the team, because I love the culture, because I love the story of the company, because I love their marketing, because I love that person who is the head of that department. I want to work with her. An emotional reason. Column A, name of company. Column B, my why. Column C is their why. Why should they want to hire someone like you? And they couldn't care less about your reason. Do you have a specific skill, or do you have a specific experience working for their competition? Do you bring a certain value because you work with companies who are their customers? What do you bring to the table that they care about? Now you go to LinkedIn and you go to that company page and you go to the employees and you see who work there. And you will come across Michelle, the head of HR, because she's in charge of hiring. But here's the thing, unless you want to work in HR under Michelle, she's not the right person. Find the head of the department where you do want to work in. Marketing, product, R&D, whatever that is. Reach out to the head of that department. And when you send that LinkedIn message or that email or that Facebook connection request or whatever that is, communicate your why and their why in a human way that builds a relationship. That is what every business person that is in services, including your servant right here, is doing. Do the same with the companies you want to work for. It doesn't matter if they hire right now or not. Build a relationship. If you're an entrepreneur and you start a startup and you're in B2B, that is exactly what you need to do with the top 10 customers you want to have next year. Because right now, everybody's sitting at home. Right now, no one is purchasing services from you and your competition. I'm generalizing, of course. So people actually reply to messages. People sit at home and they wait for the storm to be over. That is the time to communicate. So, of course, if you're an entrepreneur and it's B2C, so it's a little bit different. So that's basically my answer. I hope I was able to answer your question and bring value. Feel free to ask more specific questions about your situation if you feel free to do so.
Assaf,
yes.
Here on YouTube, there is someone that owns a co-working space and is worried about how is going to be the future of work, and if you think that people is still going to work to an office, and if you can think on specific strategies in order to take advantage of this crisis, or what can he do? Thanks.
Yes. So first of all, I don't know how much you got from the background here. So whoever asked that question, so I don't know if you see it here, but I'm sitting in a WeWork office, WeWork space right now, which is like most of WeWorks and most of co-working spaces, pretty empty. So I totally understand your situation. I'm a member in a WeWork space, so I see it as a customer. I'll give you a general advice. Now is the time to strengthen the relationship with your members. You could do, for whoever asked that question, and feel free to come live on the video, you can do 10,000 webinars. Probably your members, the people who pay rent for you, don't need another training session on how to work remotely with their employees. What they do need is to see how can you help them mitigate the time. Now is the time to understand where you are unique and valuable, like the post says, just not for an employee, for a business owner like you, the co-working owner. Here's one example. I run a business. This is, by the way, everything is true here except for the details, which I will not share. I run a business. I have thousands of business owners around me here at this WeWork in Herzliya in Israel. And obviously the community is alive. People talk on WhatsApp groups and they talk on the phone because we're friends. I mean, we're neighbors in our offices. Now, the minute the government says, the policy for, compensating business owners will probably be X or Y. Boom, 20 messages on WhatsApp. What does it mean for us? What do you think is going to happen? My accountant told me that it's going to be this way, but your accountant said it's this way. There's going to be a lot of noise until the final policy is going to be announced. Probably like in every country. This is exactly where you come in. If you own a co-working space, you probably have a lawyer that represents you. You probably have someone who does your finance, in-house or external. These are people that work for you, the co-working space, that are professionals in their fields and could add value to your members. So if you can communicate to your tenants right now, I don't know which country are you in. Let's say you're in Buenos Aires, picking a random city in the world. So you say, dear members or dear tenants, as you probably saw on the news, the government announced A, B, and C. As you probably also saw in the news, the municipality of Buenos Aires announced 1, 2, and 3. Here's what our legal and financial department say right now. We can't take responsibility, of course. We're not your lawyers or accountants, but here's a general tip from us. Go to the website of the tax authority, make sure you have a username and password, so the day that they say that you need to log in and subscribe and apply in order to get blah, 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 whatever, and declare, you already have the username and password. This is it, it's just a tip, but you are the one giving that tip. So it has to do with understanding what your customers need. Make phone calls to your members. This is something that, I'm happy here they did. Make a phone call to ask, hi, how are you? How are you doing? I know, it's super weird right now, and yes, I'm just your office co-working space. But if there's anything we can help here with, tell us, what do you need right now that we can help with? Do you need some help with financial advice? Do you need some help with legal advice? Do you need some help with operational advice? Do you need some help with, what can I do to help? They will tell you. So again, communicate wisely and bring value. That I can say as a member at WeWork here. Be the person providing the professional tips, even if it's not your business. You're in real estate, but you have a lawyer, you have an accountant, you have an HR department. They maybe can share some advice about working from home for the people who rent an office in your co-working space. So I hope this gives you an example or two, or an idea or two.
Okay, Asaf, so
Yes.
we will have two more questions, but before that, I would like to tell everyone, both in Zoom and in YouTube, something very, very important for us. Now we will share after these two questions, or Ryan, if you prefer now, a small survey about the webinars and the conferences we are doing, because we want to learn more about how the experience is going, how do you feel, what would you like to know more, and know your feedback, because that's the best way we will understand what's the content you want to listen to, what's the ideas you want to learn about, and that way we will be improving every time more. Okay, so so now, if you take only, it will take you like 20 seconds to complete the survey. We will put the link in YouTube too. It's very, very easy just to complete through the Zoom. You only give you read the questions, you pop up the answer, and in 2 minutes you are done. That's everything you need to know.
Okay, before we go to the two other questions, can I take a minute to share something while they were filling are they filling it out now or later?
They are filling it just now, because it's very, very short, and that way we will know exactly about what you guys need, what you guys want, and we will improve our communication skills with our network. We think that's very, very important in order to know what's going on with the people.
Ryan, Damian, is it okay if I use those 20-30 seconds to share something?
Yes, but they won't see it if they are still filling the survey.
Okay, so they have the video later. I'm just going to put it so whoever's watching could see it later.
Ryan, Ryan, the survey was shared also in YouTube.
Now it's shared in Zoom, and we will send the link in about 5 minutes in YouTube.
Okay. They are asking 5 is the highest value, 1 is the lowest value, because I've been asked about that. It's very, very easy, very short. It's 1 more minute, and we continue with 3 more questions. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for taking your time. For us, it's very important in order to understand how to keep improving and giving you the best experiences. And mainly that's what we like doing, creating great experiences. Okay, so I think we are almost done, Ryan. Can we move on with 2 more questions, okay?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Asaf, you wanted to share something, yeah.
Are there any participants here that are entrepreneurs right now that are either trying to talk to investors or that are trying to talk to customers, B2B, I guess, and would need some storytelling advice or anything, of that side? Because we can use the time to also do that. What's the best way to promote fundraising these days, and so on and so forth?
Let's go there. Great.
Do we have some people here who are running startups? Please burst in and say, yes, me.
Yes, me.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
There are a lot of yes me.
Okay, great. So I know some people are replying in the comments. I want to share a small storytelling advice that could be useful for some of you. By the way, it's true also for, beyond Corona days. But someone asked me, what's the best way to reach out to people and, promote fundraising right now? And I think the worst way to do it is to send your pitch deck or your one page that talks about the problem, the solution, your technology, the competition, your strategy, your team, and traction. Because you too need to think like a business unit. And as long as you don't have customers, your investors are your customers. You need to know your customers. Investors are also in this crisis. You need to understand their world, and they are in the dark too with the day after Corona. So what could be a better way to do fundraising, or better to do storytelling and to build a relationship? And I think this is a general advice that could help. I think it's even more imperative in these days when people do coffee meetings on Zoom. So it's not like sitting, in real life with someone, but you can do more of them in a day. So here's my advice. What I would do is the following thing. I will start by saying, let's say you have a Zoom meeting with a potential customer or an investor or a strategic partner. What I would do is the following thing. Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Diego. It's Zoom, so we have 40 minutes. I hope to do it in less. What I would be happy to do is tell you my story in 2 minutes and how I got to work on this company called blah, blah. I'll be also happy to get to know you, Mr. Investor. And that's it. Do you want me to start? Yes, yes, no, no. Help them participate in the structure of the meeting. So it's already a conversation. And then you start. And you don't go with problem, solution, technology, marketing, track. No, here's what you do. You say, well, so my name is Diego. I'm from Buenos Aires. I'm blah, blah years old. I actually started in blah, blah, blah experience. And today I am blah, blah, blah age. And throughout my entire professional life, I always noticed that blah, 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 blah problem. And at the beginning, I thought, maybe it's, somebody's probably doing it. But I saw that there's no solution. And I used to work for blah, 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 blah. And, it bothered me. So I started looking for solutions. And together with my partner, Mrs. Blah, 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 who is also blah, blah, blah experience, we started looking into it. Now, we were still working, but we started seeing, and we asked the question, how come nobody does blah, blah, blah for a blah, blah, blah market opportunity? So we said, let's start working on it. And before we even knew it, we understood that, we're working on a project. Don't say startup, call it a project. And we started doing market research. And then we started, since, I know how to write code and she knows how to blah, blah. So we started working on the solution. And from here to there, it's been 9 months. Today, we're in a crossroads because we need to decide if to go left and right. And to be honest, this is pretty much it. And I would be happy for your feedback. And what do you think is the best thing someone like us should do right now these days? Especially if you want to communicate with people like you, Mr. Potential Investor. What I did right now in 2 minutes is tell your story, skipping through problem, solution, technology. I didn't even talk about the technology. I didn't even talk about your competitive advantage, who's the competition. I didn't say anything. I just threw the main idea in a very concise way. Now, the other side, I need more information. I don't know how to give you my best advice. So wait, explain to me again, what's the product? Question, answer. So wait, so how exactly does it work? Technology, question, answer. So wait, when you were looking for other people who solved this problem, what did you find? market research, competition, how do you plan to beat the competition, your unique added value, your unique value proposition. Okay, so again, so what have you done so far? Traction. Have you spoke to any other investors? Share information. Instead of going problem, solution, chapters, order, lecture, meaning you go boof and they go defense, you just lay the tachlis, the bottom line, on the table. It's a Swiss cheese with a lot of holes, and get them to ask questions. You're not supposed to give them all the answers in your pitch. Give them more holes than cheese. So they would need more information. The more they ask questions, the more they lean into you. It's a huge conceptual shift from what most of the entrepreneurs that I see around me doing. Most people, they create a pitch deck and they create a one-page and they think this is the way to run the meeting. Pitch decks and one-pagers are important, but they are not the screenplay for the meeting. You should have them in your pocket, on your phone. Don't even bring it up. Try to present, like show the presentation as least as possible. The second reason why I really give this advice, because I believe I've seen it work. You say to them, you know, you just want their advice because you're deliberating between going A or B, especially during Corona time. You're not asking them if it's interesting for them as a customer or an investor, which is to me, as the, you know, thinking like a business unit is the same thing. The minute you ask for advice, two things happen. Number one, you're not asking them if they're interested, so they don't feel like they need to go defense, so they can actually lean forward. 1 in 50, maybe one of them will be actually interested. 49 out of 50, they will say it's not for me, and it's okay. The second reason that I really advise you to ask for advice and not ask if it's interesting for them is because for the 49 out of 50, they will give you their advice. And if you held the meeting correctly and they're not like this, feeling like you're trying to sell them, they will be like this. They will give you an honest advice. And 90+% of the time, their advice will not work, which is why you're going to come back to them 2 weeks later with a nice email that says, hey, Diego, thank you so much again for the meeting 2 weeks ago. We really appreciate the advice you gave us. We really took it seriously and we put it to work. We are happy to tell you that it did work here and there, but to be honest, it didn't really work here and there. Maybe we misunderstood. Is that what you meant? Now, Diego gave you an advice. Diego wants the advice to work. He doesn't want to seem like an idiot giving bad advice. So you get Diego to be more involved. After the third time, Diego sees that, you know, the advice didn't work. He'll think, you know, who should I connect them to? He'll start working for you. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're working on a venture and you're speaking to investors or you're speaking to early customers, get a Zoom call to present the idea in 2 minutes and ask for their advice. Don't go pitch chapters order, use the Sun model. 2 minutes pitch, make them ask questions, and then go back to the center. I hope this helps.
Assaf, thank you so
Yes.
much. We are running out of time because we are finishing. So first of all, thank you guys. Thank you all the people for joining us today. Meet you next week for our next conversation. Assaf, would you like to give a final 1 minute punchline?
Yes, I meant what I said in that post. Don't miss the current times. The minute you understand nothing good is going to happen in the short term will be the minute you can start thinking about the long term. This is what I do myself with my business as well. I'm trying. I'm not an expert. I'm not a career coach, and I'm not a seasoned entrepreneur from Silicon Valley. I'm a Bedouin in the desert, just like most of you, sharing Bedouin advice. I just want to wish you stay healthy and safe, and I love you all, and I wish you all the best of luck, and use the time right now to go and get yours and get from Egypt to the promised land.
Okay, Assaf, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and let's meet in the next in the next innovation talks session. Thank you. Bye bye. Ryan, we can close the meeting.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Assaf. Thank you all. Chag Sameach.